Okay, good evening and welcome everyone to the Planning Commission meeting for the City of Victorville, Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. I will call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cook-Askins.
Present.
Commissioner Messlin is not in. Commissioner Thomas.
Present. Excuse me, present.
Chair Kurtz.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. And we'll start out with the invocation led to us by Commissioner Cook-Askins Jr., followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Thomas. If you please rise.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet this evening. We also pray a special blessing upon the commission as we conduct business this evening, and a special blessing upon all of our elected officials, those present, and our city of Victorville. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible,
And so the next item on the agenda are going to be the special orders of the day. And this is going to be the recognition of Bob Harriman's service as a Victorville Planning Commissioner. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to our Development Director, Mr. Scott Webb. I understand we have a presentation.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Kurth. If I could ask Bob Harriman to come forward, we have a plaque and a quick slideshow to go over with the public. All right, we have a presentation getting queued up right now, but just want to thank everybody for coming out. Bob Harriman's been a planning commissioner with the city since 2019. We normally give a recognition to these commissioners as they depart. This is not a sad note for Commissioner Bob Harriman because he was recently elected to the city council. There's been a lot of development that he's touched along the way in the last 4 years, and we want to just give a recap of some of those items. So next slide, please. So this is just a quick dashboard of the development that's occurred in the last 4 years. Obviously, single family has ramped up. So over 2,200 homes we've built in the city of Victorville since 2019. We've had over 2 million square feet of industrial and almost 800,000 square feet of commercial space. That ranges from fast food to medical space to office space. Next slide, please. Some of the new tenants that we've recently seen that Bob has been a part of, seeing them come across the commission, is Rocket Fuel Stations. We've had Speedwash and Jetwave, Beyond Food Mart. Avis Car Sales was recently added to our auto park. Jersey Mike's completed construction on Bear Valley Road. We've also had a quick car wash on Palmdale. Chick-fil-A is a notable new restaurant on Mariposa Road. Dutch Brothers, we've added 2 of those in the last 4 years. Last but not least, Amazon. We've had a delivery center developed and also a new distribution center. Next slide, please. Some of the coming attractions to the city, various hotels. We have a Dollar General under construction on Village Drive now. New Arco on 7th Street. Avid Hotel on Bear Valley Road. Superior Grocers at La Paz. Stratus Fuel is a new hydrogen facility out at SCLA. New McDonald's on Bear Valley Road just issued grading permits last week. Hampton Inn is entitled at the Nisqually interchange. And we have a new Chipotle being built at the Crossroads Center, the Crossroads Walmart Center out at 395. Also, an auto zone is planned for Mojave Drive. And then the city's wellness center is also under construction. So a lot has gone on. Also, the Desert Ridge Transitional Care Center, this 170-bed skilled nursing facility that's wrapping up construction just north of Nisqually. And CarMax down the street started construction recently as well. And then some of the planning documents that Bob has been a part of includes various code amendments to streamline single-family development. He was also instrumental in bringing some practical sense to our landscaping and trash enclosure standards. He was also a part of a recent planning unit development, which approved mixed-use development. And then a large part of his tenure included our update to our general plan, which Victorville was the first in the county to receive a certified housing element. And the commission recently recommended approval of the land use, safety, and environmental justice elements. So with that, on behalf of the Victorville community, we want to thank you for your service, and we look forward to all the good that you'll do at the council level. So thank you, Bob.
All right, everybody. That was much too kind because we couldn't have done any of that without the other commissioners, and the city of Victorville has a fine staff. Mr. Webb and his associates are on top of it. These guys are top of the line. Okay. So not really on me, but that goes for our city manager and, our city clerk and her assistant. And, I guess that's it. Building in, Victorville is moving forward. This city is where it's all happening. And if people want to come, people getting tired of paying property taxes down below to build their factory, to build their industrial building, to build homes, this is the place to do it. And I want to be a part of that and continue to do that. And I'll do that in the city council. I am not, you construction guys, you saw that, okay? I'm a concrete man, and I have been all my life, and has my family. So has my family. I'm all about that. So just a normal guy, all right? Everybody have a great day. And help us get one more project done. I can tell by your boots you're a working man, sir.
That was excellent. Thanks, Mr. Webb. Um, any final comments on Mr. Harriman? I'll start to my right here if you have anything you would like to mention.
Bob, it's really been a pleasure working with you. I've learned a lot from you, and you certainly contributed a lot during your time here. And I'm gonna miss your colleague up here. This empty chair here just doesn't seem right. But I'm glad you did move up because I think you do our city well. Thank you for all you've done.
Commissioner Cook-Haskins.
All right, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Harriman on his promotion to the council, and it's been a pleasure serving with you on the Planning Commission for these last 2 years. And I can echo the same sentiments as Mr. Thomas. It's been fantastic having you as the vice chair, and we know you're going to continue to do great things for our city of Victorville. So congratulations.
And of course, I do agree with all those comments. It's been a pleasure really getting to know you, and I thank you, and I appreciate the fact that you're stepping up, going to the next level to serve our great city through the city council. I only have one word of advice for you. Please remember, going forward from here on out, it's Tuesday night, not Wednesday. Okay? There you go. Congratulations, Bob. You're welcome. Okay, so we're going to move into before we go into the individual public hearing agenda items, we do like to open up public comment for just general comment. The Planning Commission is interested in hearing from the public. Individuals from the public may speak on agenda items or on issues not posted on the agenda during this public comment section, providing those issues are within the subject matter jurisdiction of this Planning Commission. Individual speakers may address the Planning Commission once per public comment period and once per each public hearing item for up to 1 minute. For those attending the meeting in person, and though not required, please complete a speaker card prior to the start of the meeting and place it in the clear speaker card box located on the dais counter. If you'd like to comment on public hearing items, please submit the card before the public hearing item is announced. Once comments are invited, the speaker will be called on by name, then recognized by the presiding officer. Audience members may not disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of the meeting. Your understanding and cooperation are appreciated. So, with that, do we have anyone here? Do we have any cards for general public comment?
We do. First speaker under general public comment is Julio Velasco.
Talking here on this mic.
That one should work right there.
Hello, I'm Julio Velasco. I'm here with the Carpenters, Carpenter Union, and hopefully we get more work up here that is union for all of us that live up here. I live up here and I work in LAX. That is a 100-mile drive that I drive every day. Fortunately, I have been able to work up here. I used to work in Ranchero Road. That was a 15-minute drive from my house every single day. And I would come home, spend time with my family. And compared to when I used to work in LA, I'd come home, it'd be a 2.5 hour drive every single day. I'd have, let's say, maybe 2-3 hours to myself, and that'd be my whole day. Hopefully this passes for us carpenters in the union and all of us in the union. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Chair, I'd like to just make one little comment because typical public comment is 3 minutes and we're reducing it to 1 because of the number of speakers. You will see 3 minutes up there. It's because it's pre-programmed in, but at 1 minute, we'll let you know your time is up.
Thank you. Okay, then with that, I'll close the general public comment portion, and we'll move into the public hearings. Agenda item number 1, staff report, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman Kurth, fellow commissioners. Item number 1 is plan case number PLAN 21-00031. It's a site plan with an environmental exemption, with an environmental impact report, an EIR, to allow for the development of an approximately 1 million square foot warehouse and distribution facility, as well as a tentative parcel map to allow for the creation of 1 parcel from 17 existing parcels on a site approximately 52 acres in size, zoned M2 heavy industrial. This proposal is located north of and abutting the terminus of Ottawa Street, east of Hesperia Road, in a heavily industrialized area just north of the Foxborough Industrial Park. In summary, the proposed warehouse distribution facility will be comprised of 986,194 square feet of warehouse space and 10,000 square feet of ancillary office space, with the facility offering 236 loading docks split along the north and south sides of the building. Parking will be provided on site for upwards of 306 tractor trailers and 328 stalls for passenger vehicles to accommodate employees and visitors. The building has been designed to accommodate 2 future tenants with independent office spaces provided at the east and west ends of the building, with access and parking to accommodate each. This building is proposed as a speculative development, and the user of the building is unknown at this time. Staff finds the facility is well designed in accordance with the city's industrial design guidelines and incorporates architectural enhancements and features such as wall plane and parapet height variation, panel reveals and tilt-up walls, and enhanced office entries that include additional wall plane variation, canopies, faux wood siding, and reflective blue glass. As previously noted, the proposal also includes a tentative parcel map. This map has been proposed in accordance with the Development Code standards and is necessary to consolidate the 17 parcels that comprise the project site into a single parcel to accommodate the implementation of that development. The proposal as presented is in compliance with the applicable development standards of the city's municipal code, subject to the attached conditions of approval. Regarding the environmental review, the city undertook an environmental impact report, an EIR, in accordance with CEQA standards, as it was determined that while most of the environmental impacts of the project could be mitigated, there are areas mitigated, including areas such as air quality, biological resources, cultural and tribal resources, geology and soils. Impacts to greenhouse gas and noise could not be fully mitigated. The results of these impacts are discussed in the findings of facts and statement of overriding consideration, which is attachment F of your package. The applicant has prepared a presentation for the Planning Commission, which we'll hear shortly, that provides a project overview, as well as providing greater detail on the environmental review process. the impacts of the project, and the agency comments received. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, receive testimony regarding the proposed project, and take the following actions. Adopt the attached California Environmental Quality Act findings of fact and statement of overriding consideration. Adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the project, and certify the final environmental impact report for the Ottawa Business Center project, known as State Clearinghouse number 202-11-20205, and adopt resolution number P22-048, approving the site plan portion of case number PLAN 21-00031, subject to the attached conditions of approval, and adopt resolution number P22-049, approving the tentative parcel map portion of case PLAN 21-00031, subject to the attached conditions of approval. With that, staff remains available should the Planning Commission have any questions.
Thank you for that report, Mr. Clark. Are there any questions for staff at this time?
Just one came to mind, and that was the, I guess, noise mitigation. I would expect that to be significant because of truck traffic in and out of there. And I know that your report did address it, but can you tell us a little bit about that?
I would probably prefer to defer to the consultants who can probably provide you a more thorough explanation of the noise study.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Then I will go ahead at this time and I will open up the public hearing for testimony, and we will start with the applicant with the presentation.
Good evening, Chairman Kurth and Commissioners. My name is Nicole Morse with TMB Planning. Our firm prepared the environmental impact report for the project. And I have a presentation I think is ready to go up.
They're queuing it up now.
Okay. Travis gave a great overview of the project, but I'll repeat some of the items. It's a 52-acre project, vacant, located in the southeastern portion of the city. It's immediately north of Ottawa Street, east of Hesperia, south of Terra Linda. And the general plan designation for the site is heavy industrial. Go to the next slide.
I'm sorry. Are we able to get that on our screens?
We are not.
Okay.
I do have a note to look into it.
Okay, no, good enough. That's fine. We'll look up this way. Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry about that.
Oh, there we go. It just came up.
Wow. Ta-da!
Existing zoning is heavy industrial M2. Next slide. There's two, this is for a site plan review and tentative parcel map. The project includes construction and operation of a warehouse industrial building, 990,000 square feet, including 10,000 square feet of office, and related site improvements, including landscaping, parking, and infrastructure. Access would be off Ottawa Street at the two driveway accesses you can see at the south of the site. Next slide. This is the landscaping plan. Landscaping will occur around the perimeter of the site, along within the parking areas. Over 300 trees would be planted as part of the landscaping plan. Next slide. And then I think you saw this rendering before from the south elevation. So next slide, we've gone through a year-long environmental review process. It started, there's three different phases. So you see the initial study phase. We first published a notice of preparation last year in December for a 30-day public review period that ended mid-January of last year. It notified all of the responsible agencies that an EIR was going to be prepared and solicited the scope of the environmental analysis. We received 4 comments during that time. We also conducted a scoping meeting. So we incorporated all of those suggestions into the environmental document. The draft EIR was prepared incorporating 16 different technical reports, and it was released for a 45-day public review period on September 30th. The review period ended mid-November, and we received one comment letter. It was from the Mojave Desert Air Quality Management District, and we responded to that letter on November 23rd. And now we're at the last phase of the CEQA process, which is here at Planning Commission. Next slide. So all of the environmental impacts can be mitigated to less than significant, except for two impact areas: greenhouse gas emissions and noise related to off-site traffic for one roadway segment, and that's Nisqually Road west of Hesperia Road. We did look at possible mitigation measures for that segment. Rubberized asphalt was one of them, but it does not mitigate the truck noise because of the stacking height. The other would be to place walls along that segment of the roadway, which is also not feasible due to access and aesthetic issues. But we did incorporate mitigation measures for all the other topic areas, including air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, paleo, and tribal cultural resources. Next slide. Under CEQA, the city is required to balance the benefits of a project against the unavoidable significant impacts. Oh, I'm sorry, we've already discussed this. The comment, by the way, related to Air Quality Management District related to dust control measures, which we are incorporating into the project. So next slide. So the city is required to balance the benefits of the project against any significant avoidable impacts. So a statement of overriding considerations was prepared, which outlined the benefits of the project. And they included development of the property with a modern LEED certified industrial warehouse consistent with the city's land use designations in the general plan, attracting new employment business to Victorville, allowing for reduced commute distances for local hire, monetary contributions in terms of development fees, development impact fees, which also go to local roadway improvements. The applicant has also entered into project labor agreements with LiUNA, Southwest Carpenters, and MEP Trades. And then last, on the last slide, there was an economic report that was prepared, and it was attached to the statement of overriding considerations. And that the summary of that is that, in the findings, is that the project would inject cumulatively $820 million in direct spend into the local economy by 2027. And that will have a help in increase in jobs, approximately 1,200 permanent jobs, semi-permanent jobs, direct and indirect, as well as an increase in personal earnings, economic output, and an increase in property tax and sales tax to the city. And I'm here to answer any questions regarding the environmental document, along with some of our technical staff from the reports.
Thank you for that. Questions at this time, Commission, for the applicant? Okay. Thank you very much for that overview. We will go ahead and continue on with public comments. I understand there are a handful, a good number of people that would like to comment, so we'll be offering 1 minute for each speaker.
Our first speaker is Tom Cruikshank.
Hello, Chairman and Commissioners. Good evening. My name is Tom Cruikshank, and I'm with the applicant. I'd like to thank Travis and Scott and the team here at the city for all their hard work over the last year and a half. As you can see from the presentations, we were very thorough in our CEQA analysis, and we appreciate the time with Travis. So I'm going to be very brief. We've heard about our community benefits that we're here to help with our project. We've entered labor agreements with 3 different organizations as outlined by Nicole. Then we also had the economic and fiscal impact study, which was attached to the CEQA document if you really want to look into it in more detail. And Nicole also touched on a few of those items. Additionally, we worked with Freddie and his team to provide improvements on Ottawa Street, which includes a traffic control signal at Hesperia Road in Ottawa. And then we also have other improvements on Ottawa Street that we've worked with Freddie and the team on. And then additionally, we're constructing a LEED certified facility.
Your time is up.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Anyway, we also have a facility down in Foxborough. We appreciate that. So,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Delshawn McClellan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Again, my name's Delshawn McClellan. I'm a member of the Southwest Mountain States Regional Council of Carpenters, and I represent just a little under 6,000 members that live in San Bernardino County and just over 300 that live in the city of Victorville, that live and recreate in the city of Victorville. We're in favor of this project, and I'm asking that you guys, the city, approve it. Also, our members, your constituents that would love to be on a project like this as well, for obvious reasons like working close to home, not driving 2 to 4 hours on the road, and a livable wage, a mortgage-paying wage. This developer has committed on building this project with skilled and trained workforce and not some out-of-state contractor. This project benefits our members as well as your constituents, and will bring community wealth to the city of Victorville.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Pastor Zach.
All right. Good evening. There's a lot to talk about here, but I got 60 seconds, so I'm going to go ahead and make it quick. Good evening. My name is Pastor Zach with Care California. And just a couple of highlights. $820 million in direct spending by 2027 as vetted at a state level. Mid and long-term earnings increase, real infrastructure, property tax, and income tax increases. And you know, it occurs to me as electric fleets, fully solar, LEED Platinum buildings become the norm thanks to social pressure, industry competition, and technological innovation, we will ironically look back and regret that we didn't propose and approve more development like this while the stove was hot. Data USA corroborates this conclusion by saying that in 2020, warehousing was only 9.8% of this city's employment. So when we're looking forward, we're talking about building up the infrastructure of this city. Projects like this are absolutely essential. This is a total behemoth in terms of earnings for Victorville, so please approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Louis Lopez.
Good evening, Commissioners, City staff. Since I am on time limit, my name is Louis Lopez, business agent for the Ironworkers Local 433, both in Riverside and San Bernardino counties. I represent just over 5,000 members. I also sit on the Workforce Development Board for the County of San Bernardino. I'm going to go ahead and refer to notes. The Ironworkers are fully in support of the Ottawa Business Center in Victorville. We are encouraged whenever we see provisions that will offer the local skilled and trained workforce a chance to build a project the size and importance for the local economy. We need to see far more of these sustainable construction projects that will protect the health and well-being of residents and provide work and career opportunities for the local workforce in development projects like this one. Keeping the local workforce strong in common sense and very, very crucial to all of us. After all, it's helping the community stay strong. I've got 12 seconds. I'm a veteran. I also work with Helmets to Hard Hats. I just probably 2 hours ago got a Navy CB. I'm going to meet with in the morning from Victorville. Going to get him signed up for the Ironworkers. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Albert Duarte.
Good evening. My name's Albert Warding. I represent the Ironworkers Local 416. And we fully stand behind projects that go the full 9 yards and support a fuller, healthier local economy like this one. At this point, it's well known that projects aren't just about the construction process themselves, it's also what they bring to a town, what they add to their surroundings. Great projects provide career opportunities to local workers and veterans alike, while delivering skilled construction work to the site every day. Our workers are skilled, educated, and they've got a 4-year apprenticeship program. But we do bring in people with experience from the non-union. I personally work with them directly. This is one such project that does everything. The applicant has gone above and beyond, and they should be the standard of, and we ask of you to be our advocate, to hold that standard high for the work that's coming after this. Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Sisley.
Hi, my name is John. I represent the plumbers, pipe fitters, and refrigeration for San Bernardino and Riverside counties. This area is the high desert up here. It's been a focal point for the unions for years. It's a tough market up here. I think in the construction industry, you could probably expect to make about 70% up here of your wages that you'd make down the hill. So I have literally hundreds of people every day driving down the hill. Fuel costs have crippled construction families. I'm just going to say it. If I'm going to provide your community with sustainable wages and jobs and keep the money right here, I need from you union agreements. This one has one. We're 100% behind this project. Moving forward, it's probably the biggest question you should ask yourself when approving or not approving projects. Is there a union agreement in place? It's your community, it's your wages, it's your money that needs to stay right here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Virginia Hernandez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Virginia Hernandez, and I'm a member of the Carpenters. So I can say I see how it's growing up. High desert. I love my high desert, and also I wish, or I want to, you guys can approve more jobs for carpenters, so that way we don't have to go, down the hill. If we live here, we can work here, so that way we can enjoy more our families. And also I can see a lot of projects, so I hope one or a lot of those projects can be for part of the carpenters. We are, the union, and we work all together. We enjoy all we do. Like me, I enjoy what I do. I love to do that. So I wish you consider more approved for carpenters. And I'm nervous, but if I don't speak, how you guys gonna hear I can say, my words. So I'm gonna say thank you very much.
Your time is up.
And I hope you have Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Anthony Hernandez.
Hello, good evening. I'm here to support the Ottawa Street project. I'm a Victorville resident for the past 11 years. I've been in the union for 17 years with the Carpenters, and I've been driving up and down the hill. So I'm in support of this project. The developer has made a solid commitment to ensure that this project will support our local community, residents, members, and local skilled and trained construction workers with an opportunity of employment to not only build this project, but also to create good paying jobs for the local community after the construction phase is complete. So we support this project, and I just thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jason Bays.
Honorable Commission, thank you. My name is Jason Baez, and I'm a proud member of Labor's International Union of North America. It's seldom that an opportunity like this reaches up here, but when it does, it's very serious to the community because of the need for good paying jobs with benefits. There are many local young people praying for an opportunity like this to get on one of these projects to start their career and be able to take care of their families sufficiently. And when we leave, we will leave a well, beautifully built establishment that will provide jobs for a whole list of interested applicants for that type of work. It'll also bring in yearly revenue that can be used for infrastructure and utility rehabilitation, as well as more business for local establishments. Everybody wins with the approval of this project. Please grant the community this blessing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There are no additional speakers.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I'll close the public hearing, and I will bring it back to the commission for any further dialogue, any questions, or ultimately to make a determination through a motion.
Hi, Commissioner Cook. Make a motion to approve item number 1 as presented by staff.
Commissioner Thomas, second.
I have a first by Commissioner Cook Askins, a second by Commissioner Thomas. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Cook Askins.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Chair Kurth.
Aye.
Motion passes with Commissioner Messing being absent.
That has been approved. Congratulations on that. I want to wish you all the best of luck with that project. And by the way, I really like the renderings. I like that the wood treatment on the facade there. Okay, with that, then we will move on to item number 2. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Agenda item number 2 is case number PLAN 22-00020. It is a reconsideration of a site plan and conditional use permit with an environmental exemption to allow for the construction of a 60-foot tall wireless communication facility stealthed as a palm tree at the rear of a developed property within a C1 zone district due to the submittal of new and pertinent information by the applicant. The project location for this site is 15980 Muir Valley Road. You may recall at your October 12th, 2022 hearing, the subject case was reviewed by the Planning Commission and denied by a vote of 4-1 based upon concerns raised during the public hearing, which included concerns with radio frequency and to a lesser extent concerns with the design of the facility. Subsequent to the denial of the project, the applicant submitted an appeal of the decision, which included a finding that the denial based on radio frequency is a violation of the Federal Telecommunications Act, and additionally included a site-specific study showing that the radio frequency emissions from this proposed tower will be in compliance with Federal Communications Commission regulations. Based on this new and pertinent information, and in accordance with section 16-2.02.060 of the Victorville Municipal Code, this item is presented before you for reconsideration based on the fact that a finding utilizing radio frequency would not be defensible if there was litigation proceeding forward and it's not an approved use for a basis of denial. To review what was discussed in the reasons for denial initially, staff's review of the project is that denial was based on mainly concerns over radio frequency emissions, as well as it noted to a lesser extent wireless communication facility design. With regards to radio frequency emissions, and this included testimony received from a neighboring property owner during that hearing in October, the radio frequency emissions were raised as a concern and their effects and impacts to neighboring properties and residents. Based on current FCC guidelines, this is as raised by the appellant's legal opinion, as well as confirmed via the city attorney's office, that the city is not in a position to deny projects based on radio frequency concerns if the project is in compliance with FCC regulations. The study provided by the applicant in this project has proven that the project as proposed would be less than 1% of the threshold of FCC allowable radio frequency emissions. So it is in compliance with all FCC regulations, and therefore the FCC law says that the city cannot utilize that radio frequency concern as a basis for denial of the project. Other items that were raised at the Planning Commission hearing with regards to concern with design include the design of the tree itself. There was some discussion on the design of a 60-foot faux palm tree. and it's designed that would not really stealth or camouflage the wireless facility or the antennas. That was one item that was raised. However, staff would note that if it would be an unfavorable design, the applicant is willing to look at alternative tree designs should that be more appropriate in the vicinity. Obviously, this would also maintain the requirements to plant additional trees at the site to provide additional camouflage and blend with the facility. Additional questions were raised with regards to the need for the height and the coverage. A propagation map was included in this reconsideration as attachment J, and it justifies the height, which is essentially 51 feet from center of the antennas to provide sufficient coverage to the area. I believe the main area they're trying to cover would be the area to the north of this site, where it's largely residential zone that does not allow wireless communication facilities. Additionally, there was concerns raised with the thought process and the choice of this site in particular. The applicant has submitted a copy of their search ring criteria and property evaluation that they undertook to select this site. That's included as attachment K of the staff report. In their review of sites, they found that no other AT&T wireless facilities where there was no existing AT&T wireless facilities where a co-location could take place to address this coverage gap. And they also reached out to additional property owners to look at alternative locations. And while there are alternative locations, this was the best one to meet their coverage needs. And while some of the 8 additional properties that they reached out to either didn't respond or had no available land to locate a tower. Based on this information, staff has presented 2 options to the Planning Commission proceeding forward. Option A would be approval of the project. This would be in consideration of the new information and the FCC regulations cited, as well as the site study shown, which shows compliance with FCC regulations. This option would approve the proposed wireless communication facility. As proposed, the project can be found to comply with the City of Victorville Municipal Code standards, the City of Victorville General Plan, as well as the FCC regulations that dictate the city's review process or scope of the city's review process. Additionally, staff would add that this option can be supplemented by additional conditions of approval if there was a desire, as noted, to change the design of the facility to better coordinate with existing development or existing vegetation in the area. There is an option to condition the approval to address items such as that. And it would also match similar approvals in the past by the Planning Commission. The second option provided to the Planning Commission as option B would be denial of the project. Although the city may not deny a wireless communication facility based upon FCC compliant radio frequency concerns, denial of such projects is possible if the basis is supported by evidence such as non-compliance with the city's development code, non-compatibility with the surroundings, obstruction of scenic views, or safety concerns unrelated to radio frequency. Staff has provided options for both of those and draft resolutions for each. However, staff would note that while these areas may in some instances be eligible as a basis of denial for a wireless communication facility, staff analysis of the subject proposal has not identified any of the possible areas for denials discussed. That being said, staff recommends that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, receive testimony regarding the proposed project, and take one of the following options. Actions, I'm sorry. Option A, to approve the case based on the new information provided, which would be to find the project categorically exempt per CEQA section 15303, new construction or conversion of small structures, and adopt resolution number P-22-043, approving conditional use permit portion of case number PLAN 22-00020, subject to the attached conditions of approval, and adopt resolution number P-22-044, approving the site plan portion of case number PLAN 22-00020, subject to the attached conditions of approval. Or alternately, option B would be to maintain the denial of the case based upon available findings as discussed in the staff report, which would include to find the project exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA sections 15061 subsection B4 and section 15270, since projects that are denied are exempt from CEQA, and adopt resolution number P-22-043 denying conditional use permit portion of case number PLAN 22-00020 based upon the findings included in the resolution, and adopt resolution number P-22-044 denying the site plan portion of case number PLAN 22-00020 based upon the findings included in the resolution. And staff would note that any motion for denial should include the basis for the denial of the project for clarity and inclusion in the final version of the resolution. Staff remains available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Harrigan, for that report. Any initial questions or discussion from the commission?
You mentioned compatibility being I guess, an issue that we can talk about, because this is, I think, in a residential area, and you also mentioned something about the antenna design could maybe be changed or whatever, but in a residential area, a big structure like that to me would not fit, even if you put trees up, because the trees are not going to cover it. This is what, 50-foot high structure, and most of your trees are not going to get that tall, not enough to blend in or even cover that or make it look as if it were in place. So I raised the issue of compatibility for that particular area, having that structure there. Now, I'm not about to violate the law, but I do think that that's something that we should look at.
Commissioner Cook asked, what are the other acceptable designs for those types? Just to refresh our memory.
Sure. With regards to what we've seen historically in the city, for trees, we've seen palm trees, we've seen pine trees, we've seen eucalyptus trees, we've seen different types of trees that sometimes have the tendency to grow higher. The purpose of planting additional trees on site serves twofold. It serves to screen it, as you noted. It also serves to camouflage it by having similar tree types in the vicinity. So it's not just a pine tree standing there by itself, or no other trees don't exist. I would raise as part of that as well, for when speaking to design, there are some California state laws on the books now that allow for co-locations by right, that allow increases of height, they allow increases of width. What we've seen in projects that have come through the administrative review process, because those co-locations are by state law required to be done administratively. What we've seen is that typically in the pine trees or the eucalyptus trees, there is a little better opportunity to co-locate, because just by the design of the tree and it being fuller at the base and towards the top, there's more opportunities to put additional antennas when they come in for a federally mandated co-location. So sometimes palm trees don't have that same availability, because if you put antennas below the top of it, you're going to see that they're antennas. Now, in regards to the federal law, that could then kick in a requirement to redo the design of the building. So redo it because it defeats the stealthing technique of it. We've also, in some applications throughout the city, seen faux water towers. I don't know that that would be appropriate in this location, given that it is a residential area. We've seen it in other municipalities incorporated in flagpoles. There was a time in the past when the city had what was called slimline towers, and essentially what those were, it was just a monopole that was usually painted like a sky blue type color to match the sky. the issue with those recently that we've heard is the new antennas and the need for new equipment has made the slim line antennas not slim anymore. So they're getting bigger and bigger, and the diameter increases, and those have kind of fallen out of favor as an option because of the technology and the need for larger antennas and equipment.
And one follow-up question for the height, is that a standard height, or there's some that are lower in height, or?
Yeah, so we've seen average around 60 feet recently. Those have been in a variety of zones, whether it be C2 zones. I think we've seen one in a non-conforming R1 zone in a church site. This is the C1 zone. With regards to height, we have seen them typically around this height. We have seen them lower in the past. The trade-off is the higher you go, the more coverage you get. So the less antennas you'll have throughout the city. The shorter you go, the less coverage area you have, so that increases the need for additional antennas. Those antennas could be supplemented by additional wireless communication facilities at other sites. We do have the opportunity within the city of Victorville to utilize streetlight poles as what's called small cell sites. Those are permitted by right throughout the city in some locations. So for residential, they're limited to existing traffic corridors that are on a circulation element, and they also have to be on an existing or replaced pole. The may be an issue with this site going north into that residential area because it's an old county area that doesn't include curb gutter sidewalks and is largely void of the typical streetlights that we'd see throughout the city. So there may not be the opportunity there to close that gap with the streetlight poles. Thank you.
Will other carriers be able to locate on that site in addition to the carrier that's going in?
So that there's nothing in city code or the conditions of approval that would prevent that. That's typically based on the owner of the pole or who develops it. I believe the applicant is in the audience. They may be able to better answer that question if they have the inclination to have it available to other carriers as needed.
Well, that's a question I'd like to have answered. If there are any plans to have future carriers add facilities to that site, to that pole.
Then I'm going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. If the applicant's here and would like to speak to us, I think we may have a couple questions for you as well. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Stella Shi. I am representing AT&T Night, and so thank you for staff for preparing the new staff report. And I just seems like we cover everything, so just want to answer the question first. And regarding the height, we did actually provide a propagation map that shows both at 41 feet and also 51 feet of the antennas. And 51 feet is where we propose. And you can see the significant difference between the coverage area that of 41 versus 51. So before I came over here, I did actually talk to the RF engineer, and he said that 41 feet of antennas just would not work for AT&T, especially because that we have an area to cover, especially the south area, that the existing AT&T site along that south is very short. So which means that if we are not allowed to get to a 51 feet RF center, then we probably have to find another site on the south. But the south of this of Bear Valley, there, as you know, mainly a residential, and city will not allow residential zone to for a wireless facility. So that's why we were trying to keep the height at 51. And as for different kind of designs, well, first that all AT&T poles are engineered to be co-locatable. So if another carrier come along and wanted to co-locate, structurally, this pole would sustain for another carrier. And as of now, that nobody has indicated they want to co-locate yet with AT&T. And so later on, when I'm not sure if they know that we are proposing a pole here, but later on when the pole is built, and there may be people wanted to co-lo, especially because on Bear Valley, I have seen there's not a whole lot of sites around. The only co-location that I could find was Verizon, and the Verizon Monopine is workable for AT&T. However, because of ground space, there's no ground space for AT&T's equipment. That's why that candidate fell out. And the other location I have looked at all along Bear Valley on the commercial strip, and some had indicated they are working with they're willing to work with AT&T, and some didn't respond. So this one is picked by RF because it's a Z zone that we can place a wireless facility, and also the property owner is willing to work with AT&T. And then we propose a palm tree is because in the general area, there's more palm tree than anything else. But if commissioner wants us to change, we can definitely change to a eucalyptus tree or a pine tree, and that would not be a problem. As for other designs, like slimline or flagpole, staff has mentioned that the dimension of the pole has been getting bigger and bigger. So normally I have seen is the oldest ones probably about 24 inches diameter, and now we are approaching to 3.5 feet. In order to accommodate antennas. And also the other problem with a slim pole or a flat pole is that this one, we have 12 antennas. A slim pole, you can imagine that they're hugging the pole, so we can only have about 3. So in order to accommodate more antennas, they have to separate into 2 different heights. So they stack the antennas, which means that we'll have to get even taller in order to accommodate what the RF engineers wants. And so the other options we can is a water tower. Water tower, I have experience with water tower, but the drawback of water tower is that to hide the antennas, we are talking about 5 feet, 6 feet of diameter, and which is very massive when you drive by instead of just a tree. And so that could be a consideration if you are wanting to limit the impact of the neighborhood. Think I covered everything? So if you guys have any other questions?
Any other questions? I just was, there's been a little bit of talk about the equipment on the palm tree. It's kind of hard to tell on the renderings in how much of the equipment actually shows through from the palm branches, palm fronds.
Okay. The older trees, they are more exposed, antennas more exposed, but now with new technology, we could make the palm fronds longer to cover more, and also we call it antenna socks. Basically, just that we can add more tree fronds leaves around the antennas, wrap it around, so that way then it has more coverage, and also we could paint the antennas to green color, so which blends with the branches as well.
Is that standard practice, or are those additional options?
That's staff can require the coverage of the palm fronds, so we can accommodate as much as possible. Socks and paints is pretty standard.
And then when you mentioned the like co-location of another operator on that same pole, if it was a palm tree, how difficult is it to then hide their equipment?
Palm trees, we can change the what we call a pineapple. If you can see this, the brown part underneath the fronts, underneath the antennas, we can utilize those and hide the antennas inside, but that will limit the number of antennas and the size of the antennas. The other option is that we have what we call dead fronts. So pretty much a brownish color that imitate the dead fronts. So they cover, they would extend down to the trunk and make it more like a sort of a curtain to cover the additional antennas. But it does have limitations on palm trees for secondary co-locations.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. But yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak?
There is not.
Thank you. So then I will close the public hearing, and I'll bring it back for any further discussion here. If you guys don't mind, since we're on the palm tree part of it, I just wanted to keep that and question staff. You mentioned that we've seen the palm tree towers in the city in the past. Obviously that rendering right there shows, like, you can really see the equipment big time. In reality, in your opinion, is it hidden more than that? Because I'm trying to think of where one would be in Victorville. And is the equipment really prominent, or is it pretty much hidden like a pine tree?
I would say, generally speaking, other tree types have more opportunity to screen the antennas because the faux branches can be fuller, they can be further out, and they're not typically as top heavy because although the antennas are up high, you have branches on the bottom that draw the eye away from focusing on the one area at the top.
Okay. That's a good point, and because when I saw the renderings again here recently when we got this package, I actually kind of liked the feel of the way the building was, and then the palm tree. It balanced it with the other palm trees, and I actually for the first time thought that was kind of interesting that I found that kind of attractive, at least the renderings of the package they gave us. Even though it's a necessary thing, if we want to talk on our phones, it's got to be something, I was just wondering, in staff's opinion, do you believe that a different type of tree would conceal that, or do you? I mean, the staff report is saying recommend this, and I like the look of it. Just the only concern that was brought up is the co-location, if that can't be handled. Sure, because I think in the future we're going to want to push for co-location even more as this technology comes more and more.
Yeah, and to maybe expand a little bit more on co-location, it's permitted by right, so we cannot block those, and it's not just below. Co-location also includes, I believe, up to 20 feet above the existing height by right, from center of antenna. It includes outwards and from the leasable area. The city maintains the ability to deny them only when they defeat the stealthing technique. That's the language from the law, when it defeats the stealthing technique that we've approved. So if we're looking at a one-to-one basis, a brand new, pine or eucalyptus versus a brand new palm tree, without co-location, without considering that, although it's not apples to apples, they're pretty much concealing them in a sufficient way. Where it becomes a little more challenging is when you get into co-location, because they can expand outwards, they can expand upwards or below. So as the pineapple, as the applicant noted, that may be an opportunity. By right, they can expand higher, and they just get harder to conceal at that point with a palm tree, because you don't have the faux branches there. They can act as a screen.
Right. And I think it was mentioned earlier, I don't know if it was the applicant or staff that said that or hinted to the fact that there could be, a condition that if their co-location happens and we can't meet the stealth requirements, then the city could require that there be an additional change to the look of it, whether it be pine tree or whatever may work at that point in time in that year. I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing again.
If we decide on a on a palm tree, later on, the structure was geared to a palm tree. So if you want to change to a pine tree, you have to pretty much abandon this pole and build a new pole. So you can't say that, okay, right now we can approve a palm tree, and then later on, if somebody wants to come on, we change to add branches to change to a pine tree. That's not possible. So you have to have a new pole, maybe right next to it, or actually probably 10 feet away. So we call it a drop and swap. So abandon this pole and then put a new one. The only thing that you can do if let's say is a palm tree, then we have a co-location, and the only what we can accommodate would be to add additional branches, but not to change to a different type of tree.
Thank you.
For staff, are there currently any of those types in recent years where there's been an additional antenna added on to an existing design?
Yes, yes. Multiple we've seen come through on pine trees. It is an opportunity for us too, for older pines, as the applicant talked about how full they are. The older pine trees tended not to be as full as the newer trees. As we progressed through the years, we learned a lot more about how they were developed and designed. So it is an opportunity to address that when co-locations come in, but we have seen them on other facilities come through City Hall and for approval. Just to clarify what the applicant was noting, she was discussing if the pole got built as a palm tree, then to redesign it if we decided in the city's determination that the co-location defeated the stealthing technique. She's actually talking about replacing the pole, not just being able to add additional branches to it to make it look like a different tree. It's kind of removing that pole and starting with a new pole to accommodate a different design. That being said, if there was an option that the planning commission was considering to perhaps condition it to be redesigned, staff has prepared some conditions that I can provide as needed. Number one, to provide a updated design. It could read potentially something such as the applicant shall work with staff to redesign the wireless communication facility to be camouflaged as an eucalyptus or pine tree prior to the issuance of a building permit. So that could be one condition added. And we could utilize our typical standards and typical designs we've seen. If that were the case, condition 6 would also have to be of the site plan would also have to be updated. Right now it references adding 3 palm trees. So that would have to be reworded to note the applicant developer shall install a minimum of 3 live trees with a minimum height to coordinate with the final wireless communication facility design within the areas depicted on the approved site plan adjacent to the proposed cell tower prior to the release of utilities to the proposed communication facility. So there are some options there.
The second question was, since this is coming back to the commission, were notices mailed out to the property owners in the same manner as it was first presented?
Yes, the public notices were mailed out. Public notices were put in the newspaper as typical as well for the public hearing. And staff did additionally reach out to the last public speaker individually to speak with them over what was included in the staff report and the FCC regulations.
Thank you very much.
Chairman Kurth, if I could add a third option to Alex's reference. If the commission is happy with the current palm tree design, but is concerned about the maximum foliage and the fawns that are coming off of what you see in the rendering, we could bolster condition to include the maximum extent feasible fawns to cover the antennas more, including the antenna socks that the applicant referenced.
Okay. And I was just curious, when the applicant first approached the city, was the palm tree the very first design from applicant, or did the city staff suggest a palm tree for that area? I was just curious.
I believe that was the applicant's proposal initially.
Okay. I do like if this was to, you know, if a motion was to be made and you know we stuck with the palm tree, I do like I feel a lot more comfortable with what you had said through the maximum extent of the screening to the items that the applicant had addressed to the sock and painting color and things like that. Because I do like I can't say I like the look of it. I like palm trees, and if you're going to have a tower, you know, I liked what I've seen with the renderings. So, any more discussion or thought?
Before you make a motion, if there's no further discussion, I'll need to close the public hearing.
Oh, thank you. And I'll do that. I will close the public hearing.
Well, I'm okay with conditions that the stipulations that you've spoken of. I guess I'm just concerned as a citizen if I lived right next to the location that was going up, that I wouldn't feel too good about. But I do know that out of necessity, we need to have the technology out there. But in my opinion, it should be located in areas other than residential. So I'm okay with it as with the stipulations that you talked about as far as disguising the equipment and so forth. So I'm okay with that. But if I had my preference, it wouldn't be in a area, a residential area.
Are we ready to make a motion?
I move for approval of option A on item number 2 with the stipulations that staff brought to us, Scott and Alex. I think that, yeah, that's my motion.
Commissioner Cook asking second.
I have a first by Commissioner Thomas, a second by Commissioner Cook Askins. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Cook Askins.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Chair Kurth.
Aye.
Motion passes with Commissioner Messon being absent.
Thank you. All right, that passed.
And sorry, just to clarify for the record, the options that Mr. Hadagi spoke of, was that your understanding that is just in the event that they went to co-located?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
with co-location, absolutely.
Okay, thank you for that.
And I was glad that we dug in a bit on that one, just as a side note, because I know that you know, we're only going to see more and more of this stuff, and hopefully it helps give a little bit more, you know, clarity and, you know, worried about setting precedent and such for the next one. So thank you all for that. And then our continued public hearings, there's being continuance being requested for that one. Is there any comments or anything that we need to know from staff on that one in advance?
Thank you, Chairman Cruz. No, this item, we hope to bring it. We hoped originally to bring it for you at this meeting, but we do need additional time. We're requesting a continuance to February 8th, 2023.
Okay. I'll open up the public hearing on this. Is there anyone here to speak to us on item number 3?
There is not.
Okay, see no one. I will leave the public hearing open and I will like to make a motion to continue item number 3 to the Planning Commission's February 8th, 2023 meeting.
Commissioner Thomas, second.
I have a first by Chair Kurth, a second by Commissioner Thomas. Roll call vote. Commissioner Cook Askins.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Chair Kurth.
Aye.
Motion passes with Commissioner Messon being absent.
Thank you. And then finally, item number 4 is the public noticing requirements issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 4 is a new business item to discuss public noticing requirements. At the October 12th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting, members of the Planning Commission raised concerns with regard to the City of Victorville's noticing requirements. While no motion was taken at that time directing staff to proceed with the Victorville Municipal Code Amendment, there was a consensus among the commissioners to review the city's noticing requirements and standards. So that's why this is before you today. The City of Victorville is required by the Victorville Municipal Code and various California government codes to provide public notice, both public meetings and their associated agendas, as well as public noticing to specific entitlements and land use reviews. To begin, public meetings are generally regulated under the Ralph M. Brown Act. These mandate public noticing of comments with specific contents, posting locations, methods, as well as timeliness requirements or how far in advance an item has to be noticed. When you move into the land use and entitlement review items, which the Planning Commission typically reviews, these are still subject to the Ralph M. Brown Act, but they are also subject to additional public noticing requirements by state law. So items such as ordinances, general plan amendments, development agreements, or entitlements for construction or land use, such as site plans or conditional use permits, all require specific and varying forms of public hearing. It varies based upon the item being reviewed. It varies based upon the number of adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the project. For instance, a project where there's more than 1,000 people impacted by the action doesn't require direct public notice. It can be public notice via a larger newspaper ad. That's an example of where they kind of vary. Those different requirements, both for public meetings and entitlement and land use reviews, were included in attachments A and attachments B of the item. They're so broad that it was best to provide the whole scope of those for the Planning Commission to review rather than dig in too deep on those. But that being said, while the city adheres currently to all state mandated requirements outlined in attachments A and attachment B, we wanted to provide kind of an example of a typical project that you'd see here at the Planning Commission. So for the purpose of the new business item, a typical site plan conditional use permit review that was categorically exempt from CEQA, similar to perhaps the cell tower we saw earlier. That would include publication within a local newspaper of the project. It would include a notice to all property owners within a 300-foot radius of the project site, unless, of course, that radius impacted more than 1,000 persons. Then it could be done by an eighth page ad or larger newspaper ad. It also is noticed to all applicable local and regional agencies who may be impacted by the proposal. It's a minimum of 10 days prior to the public hearing, and it includes all the information on the hearing itself and how to provide comments on that item. There's also a meeting notice separately of the meeting itself. That goes through the Ralph M. Brown Act process. So that includes a posting of the entire agenda at least 72 hours prior to the hearing. It's posted at City Hall. It's posted on the city's website. Includes all documents that constitute the agenda. So everything that the Planning Commission reviews is also available for public review. And we also maintain a list of people who asked to be noticed on every agenda. So anyone who's asked to be noticed on agenda can be emailed that directly as well. There was an example included in the staff report of attachment C, which gave an example of the types of mailer notices that are sent out to individual property owners. Additionally, staff would note that under CEQA review, depending on the level of CEQA review, whether it be a categorical exemption, a notice of the term, initial study mitigated negative declaration, or an environmental impact report. Those processes too also include their additional noticing and public input process above and beyond just the land use entitlement and the meeting notices. Lastly, staff would note we did do a review of neighboring cities and in our vicinity and kind of what they did, similar sized. It varies based on those cities. Some municipalities included factors such as zoning and land use to dictate their required public review process and how far out. Some use the EAR process to dictate how far out or how far they should notice properties. I would note that our neighboring cities in Hesperia and Napa Valley utilize a very similar noticing process. They do both increase noticing requirements based on the size of the project. While I'm not 100% clear on the purpose behind that, it may be in part due to the fact that there are generally larger size lots in those cities. So you could imagine the bigger a project, if you're only touching 300 feet, that may only get one row of properties on the border of the project. So in cities like that, where they have larger lots, they may see the need to make sure a greater number of people have input, and that may be what drives their larger distance for noticing. So with that being said, staff does not recommend any action at this time based on the city's compliance with the applicable state mandated public noticing requirements. However, should the planning commission seek the implementation of additional public noticing procedures, staff recommends a future discussion of possible updates and modifications to the requirements of the code in order to provide options for public noticing that would be in excess of state law. And I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas, any questions or thoughts on that?
No.
Commissioner Cook Haskins? No. Thank you for that presentation. I think personally I am content with the fact that we have been and will continue to meet all state requirements on this. I think some of it, if I remember, it came up on one item. I think it was Commissioner Messon that might have mentioned that there was multifamily units nearby and that they get noticed. I don't see an avenue or a way that we would even want to do that. I'm not sure. And I thought it was interesting that other cities do noticing requirements based on the size of a project. Because in my experience, I've seen some of the smallest projects can affect the neighbors way more than a bigger project. So that was interesting. But no, I'm content if there's no other questions. I don't think we need to take action on this. Correct? Okay, no action needed. Then I'm going to move to and once again, thank you for putting all of that together for us. Presentation of reports. Commissioner Thomas, anything?
I don't have anything. I just, again, want to thank staff. You guys are amazing. And again, I think that it's good that we have the discussions that we have because sometimes I'm way out west here, and I think the additional options and everything that you bring into play here really are important. So I thank you for that. Other than that, happy holidays.
All right. I concur. Thank you to Mr. Webb and his staff. And I'd also like to make recognition. I don't think I've seen it before, but going down 7th Street on the street lights and poles, they have holiday decorations that are lighted. Those look really nice when you're driving up 7th Street there. So thank you, and everyone have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Yeah, and I did attend the Christmas tree lighting again this year. I think I saw a few of you here, and it's pretty interesting. The tree actually was snowing, made snow. That was really cool. I think it's a new tree this year, right? It was pretty impressive. Any comments from staff members?
I have nothing other than just happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you. And I can't believe it seems like I just said this, but We will see you all next year. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.